Hi everybody, I'm Yvonne and I'm here with Zoe, Trauma-Informed Counsellor. Hi Zoe.
Hi Yvonne.
So we've made a number of these videos now, trying to think about how do we do some self-care in really uncertain times. How do we actually begin to put some things in place that help us out? I have noticed for me that as soon as I start to hear a whisper that there's another lockdown coming, or that the whole issue around the pandemic is worsening, I'm actually doing it now. I actually feel it right here. It's just down in here, and I feel a growing sense of pressure. And I think I'm recognizing that I'm kind of not okay. Do you want to explain to me what's happening in that moment? What's a framework that we can understand that through?
I'm going to start by asking you a question, Yvonne. If I was to ask you, or to explain first, if 1 is peaceful and calm and all is well in your world, and 10 was the greatest level of distress that you've ever experienced, and I said to you, put a number on that kind of feeling when you hear the news there's an impending lockdown coming and you can physically feel it.
When I'm starting to put the news on and see if the Premier's coming on.
Put a number.
I reckon I sit around a 7.
Yeah.
It could be when if I let my mind go to all of the other people this is going to affect.
Yes.
Then it can get to an 8.
Yes.
I think
it's pretty high.
Now I'm probably back down to a 5, even though there's still a lot going on. But in those moments when it's actually looking like it's going to pivot again,
yes,
it's probably a 7.
Yeah. So that is what we call a subjective unit of distress, a SUD. A
subjective unit of distress.
Yeah.
So I'm ranking it myself.
You are ranking it yourself
as an X number of units of distress.
Based on your own symptoms. And my 7 might be different to your 7. My 2 might be different to your 2. But we will all have a range of symptoms. And if we actually get to know what our symptoms are, we will actually read ourselves better. It's a bit like what we're doing with children and the traffic lights kind of exercise.
Recognising when they're orange or red.
Correct. We can just do numbers, so we can do it a bit more complex. There's a PDF on the website, a SUD scale, and there's an example of a SUD scale on the website that people can, it's there for anybody to use. But what we're trying to help you to do is recognise the physiological signs that are happening in your body. We all have this window of tolerance. When we are within our window, we would be at the lower end. We've got psychological flexibility. I could say to you, Yvonne, I want you to run 10 errands for me today. I want you to run around, do this, that and the other, and you would take that in your stride.
And normally I'd say not a problem whatsoever, but if I'm sitting on a 7 on the
it just might
scale,
push you over the edge. And so in our brain, if we're at the lower end, we're up here in our cortex. We're in the thinking, logical, flexible part of our brain. But the bear that we refer to has been at the window a long time. What that means is there's a collective trauma, and that means we've all got this cortisol, or the majority of us, self included, have got this increased cortisol, the stress hormone. And so many of us are living at this higher than normal level at this point in time.
Yeah, because for me, if I were to do that rank, where does my life normally sit? Probably a 2. I don't really have that going on, but I've been sitting at a 5 or an 8 for a really long time now.
Yes.
So, and it's that cortisol that's actually in my body.
And so what we're trying to do, so when we keep talking about regulating exercises and so forth, what we're trying to do is just edge it down. Now we know realistically those exercises are not going to get you down to 1. There's a pandemic going on and there's breaking news all the time. What we're doing is just working a little bit, getting it down, and that's why we say little and often, little and often, little and often. But doing the scaling exercise gives you the language and the self-awareness of what happens to me at the different levels, so that if I know that I'm in a 6, but at a 7 I kind of really start to get out of my window, then at 6 I need to really know that I need to put my strategies into place.
I wonder as well, because we've had a number of lockdowns, we actually kind of have a bit of a clue as to how we do respond in those moments. So I actually know for myself. So maybe then actually recognising it and saying, what are some early symptoms? What are some early, I'm going up and down the scale or whatever it is. What can I do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So all of those rhythmic regulating practices.
So breathing and walking and using my senses
Yeah.
to remind myself
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah, and in all honesty, you know, people say to me, oh, it just doesn't seem enough. But if I look at my client population and the clients who are actually doing those things versus the clients who are not, and it's not a pass or fail, but this is, I guess, just a sociology observation. The clients who are doing the things versus the clients who just are not able to, I see people who are doing better and I see people who are not.
Yep, and it's something we need to be teaching our teenagers, our young
Absolutely.
adults, our children, the
Yeah.
people that we work with, and that's a framework for us to think about on that scale and recognising when we're actually going outside the window
Absolutely.
of tolerance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe.
Pleasure.